Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Champions League games this week, giving our thoughts and predictions for the second leg games and what to expect from all four teams. Now, starting with the game tomorrow, Inter Milan versus Barcelona at Inter Milan. Obviously, last week's game at Camp Nou was absolutely crazy, a 3-3 thriller. We saw Lamine Yamal looking like he might be the best player in the world. I think this week, Inter Milan are really going to have a set plan to be able to cover that. They're going to be putting a lot of effort. You saw them in the second half, putting 3-4 players on him. And I mean, while obviously I think that's not going to shut him down completely, he's not going to have quite the space that he did initially. I think it's going to be a lot harder for him, for Rafinha to be able to score. They're playing, again, at the San Siro. I think Inter Milan are going to be really compact, super compact, very tight. It's going to be a tight game. We know that. Now, Barcelona will also have made adaptations. Araujo got subbed in early last week back, and it looks like he's starting again this week. He's going to be a much bigger presence than Nico Martinez and going to be able to cover the big man of Marcus Thuram much better. And so it looks like both teams are going to be able to show these new changes, make the game a little bit tighter, a little bit harder for the opponent to score. Now, again, if you've watched any Barcelona game this season, you know there are going to be goals. You know both teams are going to score. You know Barcelona are probably going to score multiple. And so with these changes, that's not to say that this is going to be a low-scoring game. But I think both teams will find it much more difficult to score than they had, and much more difficult to create chances than they had last week. Now, important things to go over. Lautaro Martinez is not 100% for Inter Milan. Robert Lewandowski is not 100% for Barcelona. And I mean, I think both of them are absolutely key players for their respective teams. We see what Lewandowski does with the link-up play, with the finishing. And yes, Ferran Torres has been a phenomenal player for Barcelona this season. He's put in really important goals against Real Madrid in the final, against Inter last week. We know he doesn't possess the same threat that Lewandowski does. And Lautaro Martinez, I mean, he's going to be playing, but not at 100%. It's definitely going to diminish the threat that he possesses and put some more burden on Thuram, who's, I think, going to have a much tougher time this week against Araujo than he had last week with Cubarsí and Martinez. Now, another really, really important thing, both Balde and Koundé are going to be out likely for Barcelona. Balde, I know he was hoping to be back, but reports are saying that he's likely not fully fit. And I mean, perhaps he'll get subbed on late, but he's not going to have a huge impact on this game. And I think that means for Barcelona, you see them play a lot of their attacking football with the fullbacks pushed all the way up, all the way wide. You see Lamine Yamal pushed inside, Rafinha pushed inside. And so to not have their really two starting attacking guys, obviously they haven't had Balde for about a month, but to be missing both of them is going to be huge for them. It's going to be much harder for them to create chances this week. And I think you're going to see it in the game. There's going to be a lot more pressure on them to create things through the middle with Dani Olmo, with Pedri, and through the wing players with Rafinha and, of course, Lamine Yamal. It is important that both teams were able to rotate players this week and also emerge victorious. They don't have the aura of defeat on their shoulders from the league games. They're both fighting for league titles. They were both able to rotate players, maybe put in a couple of subs on to make sure that they won the game. But they're both going to be rested. Now, it is important, though, last week, Barcelona had come off a massive 120-minute win off of Real Madrid. And I think, obviously, although it's still a huge game, Inter Milan, they were probably playing a little bit more reserved than they might this week. And so I think they'll have that energy that they might not have had last week to push forward, to create goals, and to score a couple. Now, overall, any Barcelona game this season, as I said, they're going to score multiple goals. You look at Hansi Flick's men, they're averaging over 3 goals a game this season. It's really hard to bet against that again. I think overall, everything considered, they're in the San Siro. Inter Milan are going to play defensive. They're probably, to me, just going to get 3 goals. It's nearly impossible to hold them to less. I can see maybe 2-1 in Barcelona's favor. I think it's also possible to see a 2-2 and maybe Barcelona 3-2 in overtime. But overall, I think it's impossible to bet against this Barcelona team. What we've witnessed from them this season, what we've seen, they're going to push through to the final, in my opinion. Now, moving on to the other game, PSG versus Arsenal. This is both teams' most important game in probably the last few decades. I mean, Arsenal haven't reached Champions League final since 2006. PSG obviously had that one against Bayern a couple of years ago, but I mean, Bayern were such a super team, it was hard to bet against them in that season. This looks to be both teams' biggest chance to win the Champions League that they've had in a long time and that they might have again in a long time. Although PSG are such a young team, it's hard to see them falling off too hard. This is massive for Arteta's legacy, for Enrique, who's done what he has, for PSG, to win it this year and not be caught with any sort of curse, any mental thing that could inhibit them in future seasons. This is a huge game for both of them. Now, with that said, I do think this game is a little more clear-cut. You look at this past week, both teams lost 2-1, but Arsenal's loss was to a out-of-form Bournemouth, while Arsenal was playing a full-strength lineup. They played probably almost the same exact lineup that you're going to see them play against PSG this week, whereas PSG rotated nearly their entire lineup. They did put in a few starters. Like you saw Doué play. Later on, you saw a couple players play in the 2-1 loss to Strasbourg. But Strasbourg have been one of them, arguably the most informed team in Ligue 1 right now. And so I think the 2-1 losses are different for both teams. PSG is going to come out with their players well rested. They're going to be fired up. They're going to be at home playing in front of some of the best fans in Europe's top 5 leagues. I think Arsenal are going to be a little bit tired. They're going to be a little bit distraught from the loss this weekend. It's going to be really, really tough for them. Now, if Arsenal are able to pull out some of the voodoo magic that they had against Real Madrid, say, you guys wanted your remontada, we're going to take it. We're going to have the comeback. We don't care that we're going away to PSG. We know Arsenal are one of the best defensive teams in Europe. If they're able to hold out, shut down PSG, maybe it's possible. Now, in my opinion, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're missing Gabriel, who's such a solid player for them. I think you really feel the lack of his presence. You saw it this weekend. I think you saw it last week against PSG. I think PSG then, they're going to be at home. We know how strong they are. We know how well they attack. We know how insane their midfield is with João Neves, Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, who are just able to control the game. It's going to be hard to bet against them here as well. Now, what to actually expect from the game? Both teams, I think, will score again. I think Arsenal are going to start the game a little bit more conserved. They don't want to concede early. But I think PSG will probably score first. I think they have more attacking threat. They have a more solid team overall. And I think that's going to cause the game to become more open. Arsenal are going to be forced to attack. They're going to leave space. They're going to send some deeper players like Declan Rice. Partey is going to be pushing up. The wide players are going to be up high. The fullbacks are going to be in. And I think that's going to leave a lot of space for PSG to operate on the counter-attack. And with their quick, insane, talented players, Dembele, one of the most informed players in the world right now, Kvaratskhelia, who has been massive since he came there, Desiree Doué, arguably one of the greatest talents that we've seen, they're going to be able to put some more away. Now, Arsenal, I think, will control a lot of this game. A lot of it's going to be controlled in PSG's half. They're going to get chances. They will put some away. I see this game going probably 3-1, 3-2, 4-2 PSG's favor. I think, honestly, I would not be surprised to see a 4-2 game where PSG puts some in, Arsenal pulls 1 or 2 back, but at the end of the day, PSG's attack is too relentless. Arsenal are pushing too much to attack to try and draw the game. I think PSG are going to put some away. We know they have such phenomenal fullbacks in Hakimi and Nuno Mendes, who are going to be able to probably shut down Arsenal's world-class players like Saka as best you can. I mean, we saw it last week. I think Gabriel Martinelli is going to have a very, very tough time against Hakimi, who is arguably the best right back in the world. And they're going to be attacking at the full time, supporting the attacking players of PSG. And overall, I think we're going to see PSG and Barcelona in the final. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like. And if you want more content like this, subscribe.